Advanced. Yeah, no idea. I should probably open up YouTube chat.
Whew. Yeah, that was a good technical difficulty intro. Hey, everybody, let's switch the camera to a different camera. Okay, come on. There we go.
Nice.
And the next big thing with this microphone, especially, is to turn on noise suppression. There we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Let's turn me off so I don't have to hear me, and then I could just listen to you. That's great. How is
Nice.
everybody doing today? Welcome to this week's What the Heck. I apologize for the slight delay and all that. You know what? It's always going to happen, so never
It's
mind.
always something, man. It's always something.
We've got Isaac and maybe even looks like Requiem maybe joining. So, oh, yes, right when I said that, a little bloop.
Nice.
And perfect. I don't know if you can hear us, but
I
we
can,
can.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes!
Yes. Sick.
First try. Come on.
Nice.
All right.
Sorry if like my eyes are like looking at different places. I have like my phone doing the webcam in the middle of like two screens, and it's just a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started the show with the audio set to my laptop, so I was like really vibing to the drum beat there, and
You
all
know,
you heard was like shuffling and muttering.
interestingly enough, I was just watching an interview with Lewis Cole where he was going over like the process, and he said on one of his albums the way he recorded the drums for it is he just put his MacBook in front of the kick and then used the MacBook like like the microphone on his Mac just to record the drums for the track to get them just super crunchy and like distorted sounding.
That's so good. I mean, the new MacBook. We're getting way off topic, but
Yes.
because we have to do introductions, we're just diving right
Okay,
in
yeah.
to
Sorry.
microphones. Apparently, um, yeah. Let's do intros. Who are you? And I didn't even write the question. Who are you? And
What's our
oh, we're
question
not going to do
today?
that question. That one was old. Uh,
What is if you could drop serious money on any module right now?
ooh,
Which one would you just like go right out and yeah, buy
which
straight up?
module would I drop money on right now? Well, I'm Hex
Like
7.
serious money.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
talking premium.
serious money, not
No,
like
no
Elon
dope for
Musk money,
LFO.
but serious money.
Does
uh,
a Hapax count as a module?
Yes.
yeah. I mean,
How does that work?
if you take it apart and build a big panel for it and like stick it in
Probably
a
fits
case,
in 6U maybe.
What is that, like
it's
12U?
we can find out.
Intros.
Yeah, I want to hear the chat's answers to that. Yeah, let's do intros. Isaac, you go first. I started to go,
Hi.
but I gave up.
Hi, I'm Isaac. I do synth things. I make music. I make hardware sometimes. And if I could drop serious money on any module right now, I think I would probably buy like this is maybe more than one, but I would buy like two mutable stages or two or three and just have a really big huge bank of mutable stages. I recently got an OG panel for them. So I can make one, but I would like to have like three because you can chain them together and make like massive 18 stage envelopes, which is just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Um, you're up, Requiem. Your first ever
And
introduction on what the heck, so no
I
pressure.
know there's a lot of it. Hey, I'm Zach. Seem to be having network problems, but I've been doing modular for about a year. Before that, mostly played with acoustic things, making cigar box guitars, um, making bad noises with them, that sort of thing.
that's great. I've
Heck yeah.
been not playing a guitar for I don't know, a decade or so now.
Right.
When I say not playing, I get really good at it for like 10 minutes, and then I forget about it for a year, and I'm like, well, I don't have calluses. I probably shouldn't even touch it now.
It's just gonna
And
hurt.
then I hear one good song, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go play that right now. I get good. Again. I just keep doing that in cycles.
Mm.
uh, I'm Hex 7. I make, in my opinion, mediocre modular music. It's just like mediocre techno music, but like on a modular. Yeah, but I don't even know what module. I'm really curious about a lot of Colin. The type of module I'm just going to frame as Colin Bender Z modules, like the type of modules where you can sort of compose on the fly. Like I think the Symphonian is one of them, and like there's an ER number one of them, and like things like that are somewhat unobtainium, I think, depending on the module. I would probably look into one of those, but I feel like if I get one of those, you sort of want to build a system around that kind of a thing. When I have a hotbox, so instead I'm just going to say, geez, there's just
Decisions.
too many good modules out there. Hold on, I have a cheat for this.
Right, well, I
I
realized
don't know if any of you do this. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot to do mine. So while you're looking yours up, I would say probably the Acid Rain Maestro is what I'm looking at.
Oh,
Like it's pretty expensive, but it looks really cool.
that one's pretty sick. Yeah, I'm torn between Rabbit Hole, which is an awesome tube distortion, Sophia, which is really cool Chaos Devices oscillator that's gigantic, or Stolper Beats is probably the one I would go for first of those.
Stolper Beats is cool. I still
The
like
Chaos Moskwa looks really cool too for sequencer.
Oh, the Moskwa is on my. Yeah, I was looking at 8-step sequencers for a while, specifically for CV sequencing, and Moskwa was pretty close to top of my list. I ended up going with Voltage Block because it did some things slightly that I was slightly more interested in, particularly like some of the. Anyway, yeah, that one's sick. Is the end of the story. And the Journalog Step 8 was also on my list for like almost a year, I want to say. I think Benjamin Izzo linked it to me at some point, was like, you need this. And I was like, I trust Benjamin, so it's on my list. But I never bought it.
for the Moskva. Doesn't Asing have one?
Yes, Ising does have one and uses it in really interesting ways. I believe so. Ising or Alien Signal did some really cool things where you're sending voltage out of it, right? A single pitch, but also using it to like sort of set up chords around his stuff. Like it was pretty cool. It was what's that word? It was almost like Hocketing, but like way more advanced and cooler than that. I don't know.
And that was with some of the droid stuff too, I think, right?
I can't remember the modules being used, but yeah.
I know Kyle recently showed me there was a Signal Sounds opening party recently, which is fun. But Kyle showed me kind of how the droid stuff works, and it does look really, really cool and like super powerful because you can basically just design whatever like sequencer you want, just like right there. Like you can design the interface for it, which is kind of neat. And heard good things about it.
I think it's a really interesting concept. The thing is, I don't want to make the sequencer that I want, right? Like, there's a lot of depth to making a sequencer, and I have looked at Droid, and it does a lot of really cool things, but it's never going to make the sequencer that I want. First off, second off, all I want to do with it is get one Droid brain, which is what you need, and then I think it supports 16 or 17 other modules, right? Mm-hmm. And I would make all like one of those modules just inputs, right? I think there's one like that. and then the rest of them will just be those motorized sliders. And I would just make them go up and down. I wouldn't make them control anything. I just want to make them dance. That's all I want to do with that.
You could use them as like a visualizer,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like an oscilloscope out of the motorized phasers.
that's really both upsetting and
Imagine if
really
you could
cool.
if you could like draw out waves, you could like make them look like they're making a sawtooth, and then just like make that the wave that it makes,
Oh yeah.
or like make them kind of in a little sign or something. I don't know. They're neat though. Uh, yeah.
Ooh, the Pittsburgh Lifeforms 8 steps also cool. 8 step sequencer is also cool. I was looking at a lot of Pittsburgh stuff as well. They were one of those manufacturers that I was like not at all into until they started doing their experimental stuff, their Safari series, and that kind of thing. Because I think their modules are just too refined for what I want. Like,
Yeah.
I like their Safari series because they're like kind of janky in a good way.
They're like a little gritty, yeah. I mean, I was looking at Forestine got me thinking about the primary oscillator, and going and looking at it, it looks like a really interesting like module, and I kind of want one, but it sucks that you can't, like, none of their stuff is being sold brand new anymore, other than the Safari stuff, which is like kind of limited still, because they kind of are doing like small runs.
They're doing small runs, but they also are announcing some serious stuff early next year. I think the second week of January.
Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know.
I don't have any insight. I was listening to one of their like hang out and make music and talk sessions recently. And they were talking about, I suspect they're releasing like a Voltage Lab 2 or something like that. Maybe their drum machine, because they've talked about a drum machine before. I'm not sure what. They've also talked about a mixer. That's another one I'm really interested to see
A
what they
mixer
come
would be
out with.
nice. There was that new.
It's a mixer you will never use, Isaac, unless you
Probably.
graduate to a monster case. It probably is too big for my case, because it sounded like from his description that it's going to be pretty big. Because I think it's like one section like this, and then another corresponding section to go a row above it. That's also pretty big. So
So like a big hex mix, yeah.
yeah,
My nemesis.
right. Like, it's not that you wouldn't use it. It's just like it's a
just that
huge.
It's just anti me.
Yeah.
I was looking at. It's weird though. I've been having all these weird like specific mixer requirement things, and then Oto Machines just announced that pink mixer, and it was like all of my morals leaving my body. I was just like, no, I need to have it. It's pink.
It's not even like Kyle had some good points. Not just because he was trying to sell it to us, but like they have a really nice compression setup, and the hardware they put in there is pretty high quality, and it has some insane amount of gain. I think it's like 36 dB or something.
Yeah, I saw that. It's also 6 stereo channels, which is really nice. With like some of them have like different EQs. So there's like a tilt EQ on one of them, then there's like a high low on the last two or something. It also had a one knob, like a high frequency exciter or something, which is also cool.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
It
that
reminded
one.
me what the Danny Sound Dynamics does, kind of, in that it's like EQ, exciter, bass boost compressor, like all in one thing.
And it's a cool design. Like, not just the pink bit, they actually thoughtfully labeled it so that like no one ever like walks around to the back of a desk and like looks at their mixer labels. They just like sort of lean over, and so all the labels are upside down on the back. Yeah. Requiem. I'll just answer you in chat. Never mind. Yeah. I mean, well, no, I'll answer you here because it's faster. I open up YouTube and then I pop out the chat. That's the answer.
So
It doesn't.
YouTube.
We're not.
Oh, I forgot my video is mirrored. I was like pointing up to that direction. Is you can see actually the little watermark I normally have is also mirrored.
Yeah, there's a really nice filter bank that Forestine brought up. A filter bank as something that she would drop money on, but like that, there was one that everyone in the DivKid Discord were talking about that I can't remember the name of. It's like starts with an F or a PH.
It wasn't the Surge, the Resonate EQ, was it? Because that would be the filter bank I would go for.
I don't think so. It's not the phalastry. That's like the
The
maths
big
alternative, but it's
fuck,
the
Fumana.
yeah, the
Fumana.
Fumana. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. That
it
thing's
was a weird F
crazy.
name with multiple syllables.
That's like yeah,
Yeah,
that thing is like $1,200 or something ridiculous like that. I mean, all Frap Tool stuff is insane, but it's like it's beautiful. You can use it as like a 16-band vocoder or something. Um, it's wonderful. Uh, like Frap Tools makes a lot of really like high quality looking stuff. That's just like their panel designs are beautiful. Everything about it just screams like wow.
except
Um,
for it's like grayish. I don't like that. It's not black.
it's like
It's
a
not silver.
navy.
It's
It's
like
like a yeah. But then they've got like the kind of like the green, yellow. I don't know. I like their colors, but
I
I
do
like
like
really
the
weird
labels and
colored.
color schemes. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't like that they never use text. Like I think there's no text on any module they have. Like I think they're all completely just icons, which is kind of annoying to me in some ways, but kind of really cool in other ways.
Once you figure out the icons, I think it's supposed to be pretty good. But
yeah.
Yeah.
looking at it for the first time, it's like, what does this do?
Yeah.
I mean, that goes for all of the modules. Like at this point, I guess I don't buy modules fast enough to like have to read the labels all that often. Like it's pretty
Yeah.
rare. I just buy one and I use the heck out of it. Um, so I don't worry too much about like I don't really care about the labels. That's a short answer. Like
Yeah, no, fair enough.
okay, on an oscillator you've got like 17 kajillion outputs. Like it's nice to see like a little triangle or whatever,
Mm.
but a lot of them are pretty straightforward. Um, Requiem, since I didn't expect you to join, and I'm stoked you did. Uh, what got you onto EMS or into modular? Like, what kicked that's the whole thing into gear?
Requiem.
Yeah,
Hello.
that's a good question, right? Like, it's a very niche hobby. So, am I back?
No. Like you were just staring sort of angrily at the screen for a minute. I was like, oh, sensitive topic.
Nope, just connection issues. It seems.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but it's better.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just an oscillator.
yeah.
Um, no, I mean it was YouTube, right? Like probably either Red Means Recording or
Oh
Andrew
man.
Huang. Like watching either of those two work, it's like, wow, I want to do this. And then of course you try it and you're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, Jeremy is dangerous for module buying. Like seriously, he's really really good at selling stuff. Um,
Yeah. And I don't even think he tries. He just makes cool shit and then
he just makes yeah. No, definitely. Uh, YouTube is a really really big way to get into it because Mylar Melodies is kind of my favorite in that department.
mm,
Um, where it's just like he'll just like do a demo of something that will just be so fucking crazy. You're just like, oh my god. Like I still go back to like his Metropolis and Metropolis demos, even though it's like I'm never gonna buy this thing, but it makes you excited
right.
about doing modular stuff.
Yeah,
The
I really like
Metropolis is
his
one I'd love to play with. That'd be a fun one.
I really
Or
really want to get
Ix.
my hands on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not too partial, honestly. The Ix seems cool, but definitely like menu divey. It's like Renee V1 versus V2 for me, where it's like they both kind of have their strengths in that the earlier version is like simpler and more intuitive and probably more fun to use, but the second one is a lot more powerful.
Yeah, I didn't mean to distract from that conversation. Those are just really interesting modules to me. Yeah, those YouTube influencers have an effect. I always think they're funny because like a bunch of them, like a whole bunch of these really famous ones, were pretty adamant about not getting into modular for a long time, including Jeremy from Red Means Recording. Um,
Yeah.
and then they did it, and now they can't stop. because it's really fun. Like
No,
there's
I
something to
totally
it. It's not just like a more expensive synthesizer. It's a lot of fun to do.
I think it's
And
pretty
it's more
funny that
expensive.
it is more expensive, and they are still, a lot of them are still adamant about other people not getting into modular, especially like
Yeah.
beginners. They're like, if you want to do this, there's much better ways of doing it.
Here's some free plugins. And I
Right?
appreciate that. Like that's a cool way to go about it because not everybody can drop like $1,000 on a new system or whatever if they're
Right.
Yeah.
lucky. Um,
And like modular especially has such a like low floor before you get like, a usable system. You need to
yeah,
drop like a couple grand before you're having a good time.
I agree. Like I think there's some good gateway bits, and a lot of those are like these semi-modulars, or like I think the newer ones like the Mavis or East Beast or the West Pest. Like those are perfect little like machines that are self-contained and get you convey the idea well that you can then expand without having to drop $400 on a case and $300 on a power supply and like
Yeah.
just having power in a box like for
Y- you
$700 cool. um,
Right.
Mavis is actually really like when it kind of was announced and all the videos came out, I was really unimpressed with it. But actually messing with it in person, I think it's actually kind of one of my favorite like looking semi modulars that's kind of come out. Mostly because it's got this really cool interface where you can kind of smoothly blend between it. Like everything is built around like cross-fading modulation together,
yeah,
which is kind of what makes modular all special. Is that you can kind of add whatever modulation wherever you want in creative ways, and so it's really interesting to me, and like versus something like the East Beast or the Mother 32, where it's like basically just a straight up East Coast synth, but you just also have patch points. Still
that's
cool,
cool.
but
That's cool.
I think I don't know. Mavis is neat. I try to recommend Mavis where I can. I've been plugging it to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to a lot of. I mean, that one was one I played with briefly. It's like all three of those are excellent. Like the one that was like spoke to me of all of these little semi-modular things is the Soft Pop Few One,
Yeah.
because it wasn't like I was programming a synthesizer or something. It was like I'm begging this organic techno creature thing to like behave a little bit. Or maybe having a debate with the machine is a better way of putting it. Like
Not a
it
debate.
does
It's a
cool things,
conversation.
but it's never going to do what I want. And yeah, there's a hidden panel on the bottom where you can like turn it into a boring synthesizer, but I didn't enjoy that. I liked having a good debate with this little friend. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the coolest part of modular is when you're like doing something and you happen upon a sound that you like never would have gotten to if it was like you had all control. And like the
yeah,
kind of fundamental difference between it and like a DAW is that like with a DAW it's kind of all very well intentioned. You don't ever really happen upon like happy accidents as often.
yeah.
Versus in modular where it's like everything is a happy accident.
I
You have very little control.
think it depends on how you patch. Like I
Definitely,
think at
yeah.
this point I have like the modules that I turn into a very boring subtractive synth, and I'm happy with that. And I
Yeah.
can modulate them exactly as I expect them to, like an LFO mixed with a theremin. Like they're gonna do what I expect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there's modules like the Waver. Can I just say that Bastel, particularly Bastel projects that collaborate with uh, Casper
Mm-hmm.
Electronics are some of my favorite machines because they have a lot of unexpected joy in them. But the Waver is one, I think, I can't remember if that one's a Casper collab or not, but it's one that like it's just like a mixer. Boring.
Yeah.
Can do some wave folding. All right, cool. But it is weird. Like I pipes in some voices, and when I mix them together, it's not like, oh, now I'm hearing three things. It's like now these three things are fighting to coexist. Like they're having a battle, and it sounds awesome. And we can
Yeah.
wavefold that. Oh, it's a gnarly battle now. Like it's just a cool, unexpected thing that I never would have I have no idea how I would even approach that in a DAW.
Yeah. I've been finding Warps kind of as a similar way where like Warps kind of does some really weird like unpredictable, especially with some of the other wave shaping modes where you get into it, it's like you just turn the knob and it's kind of on its own, you know. Um, and it's more about just like feeding two things in and kind of it's like an experiment, a science experiment where it's just like I don't know. Um, I've been kind of also, but I do have sort of the prescriptive. I've been working on a live set. I have a live set in January, and I've been working a lot. Basically, the past week of EMS streams I've been doing have all been like live set practice, and so I've kind of been experimenting with like what I want to keep is like a stable, everything is always the same voice, and what I've got is like my unpredictable weirdness. And definitely like rings into beads is totally it's not in like the ambient like kind of rings into clouds way, but it's like definitely when you're using it in like Easter egg and beads is going really rhythmically, it can get really really gnarly.
Yeah, there's a lot of modules like that. I like the ones that do unexpected things in a very repeatable or predictable way. The data bender is one that I really quite like for that. And very recently, as of yesterday, I guess, I was like, oh, I have the performance mixer and it has sends and returns. What if I put the data bender on a send instead of just having it permalined into the drums?
Yeah.
And it was awesome. So I don't know. I love that stuff. Pizza's ready. DJ MJR, I'm glad you picked up a Bastel pizza. Go have fun with that.
Wow. Hell yeah.
That's also a module that's like gets weird, but in a very predictable way that I like.
Yeah, I was about to say that's my weird module of choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's got to be a Casper collab, right? If I remember right. I don't know.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. The pizza looks really cool. I really love FM oscillators in general, and so like anything that does kind of weird additive nonsense, like the telharmonic is like my favorite module of all time or whatever. And it's sort of similar in the vein where it's just kind of like weird, crazy, additive wave shaping stuff. Though it's definitely got less control. The pizza's very powerful. Is it a Casper
It's so weird. I'm not sure if it's Casper or not because I don't see a Casper logo on it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it is.
So maybe not, but it is a very excellent module by Bastel. Yeah, I am more recently interested in FM and syncing. There's a lot of FM sounds I don't like, but after watching some more recent videos or different folks explain some ways to use FM in like kind of pleasant ways,
Oh, yeah.
particularly through zero FM or exponential versus linear, that kind of thing. I think I might be convinced. So I got some. I got a Legion on the way that has some really nice FM. I know
That oscillator looks cool.
Yeah, it looks about like what I would have. Bastel Pizza is fantastic, and I will use the heck out of that with FM and all of that. But the Legion looks like one that I can just like it's a dumb enough oscillator that I can understand and like do stuff with.
Like what's going on?
Yeah.
Through zero is really. I've really been wanting a through zero oscillator. A friend of mine is working on one, I think, so I might go for his when it's ready. But I've also been looking at the super basic 8 HP Dupfer one because it has a blue and white panel, but also because it's through zero.
Yeah.
And just because the idea is that it keeps everything in tune when you're modulating it, right? Like you can do all the audio rate FM stuff, but it won't kind of fuck up your tuning too bad, or.
Right, and that's the thing that I had trouble with because I had made some knife sounds. I made some nice FM sounds with FM on different things. Like I used the FM oscillator on Micro Freak, which is probably a Braids or
I think it's
Mutable Instruments rip.
Platts, yeah,
Um,
something like that.
yeah, and I've used a couple other ones. Like I've done it with just like regular oscillators, and in my experience, I'll get like a really nice single octave, but anything beyond that octave just gets like ultra janked.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
For me, I feel like it's always key to have like you need a lot of attenuators and a lot of envelopes kind of everywhere. And so, I understand why they're all digital. It's because like if you want to have like a really nice FM synth, you need like 6 through 0 sine wave oscillators and like 6 envelopes and like attenuation on everything and all that. So it's interesting seeing how people kind of pare it down where it's just like 2 or 3 knobs. Like the Volca FM is a really great interface for paring it down to just like four
yeah,
knobs for the full
I agree
FM
with that.
engine. And so it's like that's the interesting thing is where you're seeing when people are like, taking stuff and kind of making the controls as easy sort of to use as possible, like macro controls or whatever.
I mean, that's what I like. I'm okay with having a limited palette if it means I have more
Yeah.
direct control. The exception is with my sequencer, and again, like I've talked about the hot box enough, but it's awesome for what I want to do with it.
Speaking of FM, Platts can load DX7 patches now. That's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, that's an enormous library that just unlocked.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's something that like I'll do at least with the Volca. The Volca FM is now the only thing that has stopped me from buying a Platts because I'm like, oh, I could buy a Platts for the FM synth, but I already have that exact synth in my Volca. But no, but the Volca FM also loads DX7 patches, so most of the time whenever I'm using it, I will have DX7 patches on it, and it's just like I'll go through presets and I'll build something off of the preset, where it's just like adjusting just certain things off the presets is really kind of the way to do it. I feel like with FM at least.
Yeah, I
it's good
mean,
for the starting spot.
yeah, I think there's very few outside of a computer. I don't think there's many FM synthesizers where you can like manipulate the entire thing or compose the whole thing in a sane way. Like in hardware, maybe the Mega FM is probably one of like 3 or something. But
Yeah.
but speaking of plates, I got one of these, and this is the one with the actual panel, but is a clone.
Yeah.
But I dug out this too, which I've had for a long time, which is a Crucifix Cosmo panel for braids, and like, look, they're the same. I just like bloop right in there,
And then you just
and
rewire the jacks.
I'll probably have to desolder the jacks, but yeah, I'll put in some Cosmo jacks, but like trivial.
And you've got the nice panel if you ever want to make another Eurorack one.
Well, I was thinking like this is a good panel. I'd probably, for sentiment reasons, just like frame. Like it's a cool thing.
I have.
But I like the back better.
Oh yeah.
It has like
All the lip balm looking. Yeah. The Furby.
yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, stoked about that.
No, that's awesome.
I have not made any sound for this yet because even just before this, I went and made a quick 16-pin cable for it because it is 16 pins, which was unexpected. And I did turn it on, so it does fire it up, but I haven't heard any sound from it yet because I haven't plugged in any cables.
I guess it uses the 5-volt from the supply.
Which I'm stoked about, especially for Cosmoifying. I'm using the RT65Bs, so there's plenty of 5-volt. That's 5-volt. That's not getting much attention there.
Yeah. It's weird how no one uses the 5-volt rail. I've gotten into huge arguments though with people over the 5-volt rail because some people are like, "You should never use a regulator," and everyone uses a regulator always just to get it.
Yeah, I've seen it like. I saw Thea get into it with somebody. I wasn't really an argument. It was like somebody popped into their Discord and was like, all of your digital modules should just use the 5-volt rail. I'm an engineer, right? Like, and it's like, well, like most people don't. there's still a fair amount of people that don't have a 5-volt rail.
Totally.
Okay, well, you got to account for them. You want to sell as many as possible. Fine. Everybody has 12-volt rails. Everybody, right? Like, in the
And it's
ground.
just easier. Even like, I mean, in an ideal world, every module that that would need 5-volt would have an option like a jumper on the back, so you can select between using
Yeah.
5-volt rail in the power or just using an onboard regulator. But like most people don't give a shit about that, so like no one puts it on there.
Yeah, and then other people recommend having like a 12 pin or 16 pin connector and a 10 pin connector, and then you have like more hardware you have to add for each of those, and like it's just not worth it.
It's
Anyway,
ultimately very inconsequential because the only thing that it kind of affects maybe is like a little bit of noise on your rails, and even then your rack's so noisy and unregulated anyway that there's nothing you can really do, you know.
yeah, and I find half the time the noise I'm getting is like my fault. Like I've left like some repeating thing always on. Like I've pulled a VCA cable from something, or so it's always on and just real low, or
Yeah, or like one of your pins on something will just be like a little, and it'll do something weird.
oh yeah, Stogo Shuffle. Almost nobody uses the data bus. I think the only things that really do it, thankfully, are sequencers. There's a handful of sequencers that'll do it, and they're expanders and stuff like that.
I want to say some of the mono stuff actually repurposes it for I2C communication. So you can kind of do like Buchla, because I think the new Buchla stuff has an I2C bus that can do like digital communication between things or something weird.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that like there's a very vague loose standard about how to use those rails, and it's not always the same. So I'm a little paranoid, and the bus boards I ended up getting, I'm able to isolate them from each other in case I want a sequencer over here and then like something that's using I2C over here.
Stogo Shuffle also mentions the rotating clock divider at disting. Yeah, because I think that the main attractive feature of it is having it as a master clock, because you end up always patching all your clocks together anyhow, so having it behind the panel would be nice, but it's like less flexible. I don't know, it's weird. It's like having it's like those people who will like run patch cables behind modules and stuff where it's like, wow.
I mean, I think if you do it right, like I don't know how they've done it. Maybe they've done it so that the clock is normaled, so that if you do put a clock input onto that particular module, it breaks the normalization. And
that would be clever. That would be nice. But again, it's one of those things. Your rack is already so hard to get everyone to just make everything the same size and like the same depth. I mean, expert sleepers modules don't fit in like half the cases out there because they're so deep or whatever. So there's no depth standard really. There's a loose one where everyone's like, it should be about this, but.
Yeah, I like the Cosmo standards. Well, there's really like, it's funny how little effort is put into standards in Cosmo, but they're just ended up being standards. Unspoken standards, like multiples of 5 or 2.5 centimeters. It's very rarely going to be like 8.5. It's usually going to be like 10, 7.5, like that kind of thing. And the exception is this. This is one of the handful of like panels that folks made.
Size.
Well, no, it's actually slightly bigger than braids. I thought it might be exactly braid size too, which is what I was just checking. But this, just for comparison, I have this is a 10 centimeter wide Cosmo panel, and this one is like 8 and a fraction or something.
Oh, that is infuriating. Oh no.
I love it. I'm going to use it. It's fine. I'll just like cut a custom one.
You gotta make like a really skinny little VU with those LED bar graphs. Just like a really...
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea. Or something like a mole, like... and I did just get some new Cosmo panels I'm excited about from PolyKit, and I just want to shout them out. They like sent these to me, and they're cool because the panel and the PCB is the same board. Like there's no back panel.
Oh, that's rad. Are there knobs? Do knobs go in the front, or are they?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's dope.
So this is the sample and hold one, which I'll probably build first, and then there's a spring reverb one, and I like their artwork too. Like they did a good job. And then I just saw they had some blanks, so I was like, hey, can I buy some of these? And because with Cosmo, I have to cut my own, and finding aluminum the right thickness is both impossible and expensive. So these are already made the right size. So I got a couple 5 centimeter wide ones and 210. Love them. Very happy about that. Probably more happy about these.
The blanks are the exciting modules.
They're unlimited in potential.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of DIY stuff, if I can interject with something that I have spent basically all day working on, but I have been doing some Daisy stuff with this fun board, which is, I'm trying, there's so many wires connected to this. This is the SynthUX Simple board, which is...
Oh, here, let me fix this. Let's do that.
Prototyping with like Daisy, right? And so this is now a stereo delay. So like if I send here, wait, there's a dry wet on here. So if I go and send in like, so that's just from rings. Okay, turn up this.
Yo.
It's got a filter on it. We got feedback as well.
Ooh. That's super cool.
So I have been working on this basically all day because I just finished with finals and I finally had some time to.
We lost you, Isaac.
Sorry about that. Hi. Hold on.
I promise this wasn't my fault, even though the timing was exactly when I switched this.
No. Shit. Wait. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
We just see your OBS, I think.
Your phone died?
My video. It was. I think this is hooked up to a USB hub, and I think the USB hub disconnected, which killed DroidCam on OBS real quick.
Oh.
Whoops! OBS has crashed. Okay, hold on.
Well,
Anyhow, this has been just like technical difficulties. The what the heck right here? Like holy shit! Why is DroidCam up? There. Hi, I'm back.
We're back.
Okay.
We're back.
Sorry about that. What I was saying is, this has been a really interesting experience for me, just because I'm not really a coder. I mean, yet I've been kind of learning about it, and so this today was just like fumbling through Arduino, because weirdly enough, you can make like, with the Daisy stuff, you can make like full like delays and filters and shit like in like Arduino code.
Yeah.
Which is super straightforward. It's just like if you want the oscillator, you just say oscillator, set oscillator frequency, set oscillator weighting. Like
and this is because there's libraries already for them for folks who are not familiar. Like a set of code that somebody else has written that you can just like write easy stuff to do the thing.
Yeah. Though it's still not really like that easy, because
no.
Well, so I was just running into it. There's lots of things where it was like I had a really hard time just like getting the delay things to change, because I'm a terrible coder, so it's all like spaghetti of just like a million uncommented things in a row and all that. It's awful. But this board is really cool because it makes it super easy for you to just hook up all of these. So like all of these wires, I'm gonna try not to actually. I'm just gonna disconnect it first.
Well, I'll just walk. Yeah, it's essentially. Sorry, we're going on a DIY tangent, but it's essentially like a breadboard designed for making a synthesizer. So it's already got spots for all the potentiometers to sit in different places, or
Yeah.
all sorts of things, switches. Like there's all sorts of cool things you can plug into it.
Yeah, so like each of these, every single one of these potentiometers is already normal to voltage and ground, so they already
Yep.
all put out like a voltage signal when you turn them, and then you just put that directly into one of the pins on this guy, and it just
Yep.
works. And this has enough I/O to just kind of drive everything. Um, and just like messing with it has been a lot of fun. It's brought me great joy today. um I need to make it clock synced now, and also change out, it's got a low pass filter, but I'd like it to have a phaser at some point, and I'd like this to become like an actual, like, you know 3U Eurorack module in the future.
Well, it sounded stereo, right? So really, you
It
want
is stereo.
what, 2-notch filters on offset a bit, one in each ear or something like that to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that panning.
Well, yeah, I'd like a stereo phaser with some stereo nonsense. So the main thing is that it's got individual time controls per ear, which I always really love, because then you can like
Yeah,
skew them a little bit, like the Mimeophone does, or the dual looping delay,
that's cool.
and that's always so much fun. Yeah, Stover Shuffle also mentions Pure Data with Daisy. Yeah, I think you like Pure Data and Max, and like just everything works with Daisy. I think Daisy is just really really powerful for stuff like that. Um, it's a cool platform, and I highly recommend it
That's
for
awesome.
anyone who wants to get into it. And it's
All
really
right,
it's
all
really
right. I'm
not
gonna
that
shift
hard.
topics real quick, just because we
Yeah.
only have a few minutes left.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so Zach, you play guitars, right?
I have guitars that I've played before.
Do,
Yeah,
do you have guitar pedals?
not very many.
But you have
Okay,
guitar pedals.
Um,
Have you been like? I guess if you've been playing with guitar pedals and your rack at the same time,
I
like
haven't
piping
tried
on
that.
it.
No. Um, I actually left the few pedals I did have with my dad's, because my dad's been a guitar player for like 40 years.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
Mm.
but all of his stuff was actually stolen like last month,
Oh, that's
which,
right. That's right.
No.
Yeah,
yeah, that really
Ouch.
sucks.
That's awful. Mm.
yeah.
Including my pedals, of course, they were with it. So
Was it in
can't go
this? We don't need to go too far into that here, but that really sucks. Like, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I remember you asking about a guitar not long ago, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, pedal. I just pedal boards. Like I've been playing off and on, so I had a handful of pedals I liked, um, and one I really liked through synthesizers. But like I had a feeling I was probably putting too much voltage through it because at some point it would just stop.
Just
Start
wait.
smoking a little
So
bit.
it didn't smoke. It didn't smoke. It would just stop. I don't know why,
Mm.
but it will
Yeah.
start up again. It does work again. It's not digital. So I ended up getting that Inter Effects like pedal thing. It's not really a pedal because there's no stomp on it, but all it does is like attenuate down or up. So you can do sort of effect sends from Eurorack to guitar or guitar to
Oh,
Eurorack or whatever
nice.
really tidily.
Mhm.
And that thing has been like game changing in the last week or so. So I've been
Oh, that's
playing with
dope.
Nice.
that.
Yeah, I know Forestine uses a lot of pedals with their setup.
Some pedals, yeah, like I think they have the Grand Canyon and things like that are like Electro Harmonics in particular does like a really good job of
Yeah.
ensuring that if I put too much voltage in, it's fine. They don't
Mm.
care. Like
After
that
you.
one just plays really nicely with synths.
Hmm.
Um,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting with just like pedals, where there are some things that like kind of pedals definitely reign king on in terms of effects, like phasers. Like there are some Eurorack phaser. I mean, I guess you just picked up the, which is it, the Orion. Um,
Yeah, I don't know why I have the Orion right now, but I'm really thankful I do. So I ordered the Orion, the Subway, and the Legion all at the same time, and then a couple weeks ago on Instagram, I saw that WMD was clearing out their stock of like conference shirts and stuff And I was like, sick. That one's yellow and black. I like yellow and also black. I'm going to buy that. So I bought the shirt. And then I got a shipping notification that my shirt had shipped and that Orion had shipped. So they had like
Weird.
tossed them in the same box and sent them. So that was weird, but I am very thankful and it is cool. I learned a lot about phasers in the last week or so.
Phasers are really cool. It's one of my favorite effects, but I just think because my dad's been thinking about buying a Mutron biphase. If you know, the Mutron biphase is kind of one of the most famous phasers ever made.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. It's stereo, because of course. But it's one of those things where it's like there's no real like Eurorack Mutron biphase that everyone's made. Like all the phasers in Eurorack are kind of not that per se, and I think if you go looking in the pedal world, you can find like really, really nice sounding phasers that you can't get in Eurorack. So it's like,
well, right. There's like near unlimited phasers and guitar pedals, and they sound great. And I wanted that in my stuff because sometimes, every once in a while, like I make a voice, and I'm sure you've done this too, that just sounds like a guitar for some reason. You're like, cool, I want a phaser on this. Nah, like can't do it.
Rings is actually really good. It sounds like
Rings.
A guitar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Rings is a great guitar. I've been.
Yeah.
I was trying to press Rings, and I don't think it's.
Rings is a great guitar. And so I'd been jonesing for a phaser, actually, especially after Heinbach did a video on phasers, where I was like, oh, these are actually really cool. Something I'd written off from Guitar Land because I had like a multi-effects pedal years ago that I like would be like, okay, this is a phaser. Okay, next thing, like. But they're really nice, but like they don't. At least if the Orion is any indicator, they're not like dramatically changing the sound. Like it's almost like a subtle filter with that notch going back and forth, right?
Definitely, and I think they really shine subtly. They sound really good on drums, weirdly enough. If you ever hear drums and phasers together, it sounds really cool. It's kind of got,
and they like held things, right? Like staccato notes aren't really great through a phaser, so like
they like sustained chords and stuff.
Yeah, so one thing I've been doing is running stuff that I just like the sound of recently is running that Spring Reverb. I got the Look Mom one, and I send stuff into that and then into the phaser, and then regardless of what I send into it, drums, synths, whatever, it has enough of a tail depending on my settings to make that phaser really shine at the end of the chain.
I do think I actually have right now. I have my QPOS set up in a kind of QPOS has like a smile pass mode that
smile pass. That's right. I yeah.
Sounds almost like a phaser, where it's like it's kind of close. And that sounds really good through delay.
Yeah, and I think the phaser is an interesting one that, like, I guess guitar pedal. My point looping back to guitar pedals is there's a lot of guitar pedals that really don't need to be hands-on. Like with Eurorack, there's a lot of stuff you want to modulate, but sometimes there's stuff you can just like leave on. Like you probably don't need to modulate a chorus all that much if you don't want to, like stuff like that. And a phaser is one of those that like there's not a lot of modulation options on it, and I don't think you really even need it. To be honest. So like some of my guitar pedals like are great because I can just kick them on, but again, without the inner effects, like some things were on the verge of breaking. So it's like, okay, I'll get this thing. And then that opens up a lot of possibilities because guitar pedals are also like there's so many of them that the cost of a thing is cheaper typically.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless you're going for like the hand drawn ones,
Oh, this is the crazy diamond-shaped thing. Wow.
There are definitely a lot more like budget guitar pedals than budget Eurorack effects.
Yeah.
It's just orders of magnitudes difference in like the actual markets, Like Boss makes like whatever 50,000 pedals a year or something crazy. Probably way more than that. But everyone wants a guitar pedal. Everyone needs like an overdrive or something.
Yeah. Wall
Wonder if
pedals,
also-
auto walls.
Ottawa's, the NT2 Metal Zone. I was really funny.
What was that, Requiem?
Just thinking, I wonder if it's because a lot more guitar pedal like single purpose analog circuits as rock effects generator multi effect kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that's interesting about Eurorack, that they have a lot of more unusual effects.
Yeah.
But that's changing too with like the microcosms and things like that are just insane.
Also, from just like a circuit design standpoint, it's really easy to make stuff that doesn't have CV inputs. Like CV inputs like make everything so much harder when you're designing stuff, and they add parts and complexity and all that. So having something with like 2 knobs and a button is way simpler. You just need less stuff.
I agree. All right. On
Or
that
you just
note,
get
oh, go ahead.
just gonna say you get really janky and solder a Vactrol to your potentiometer. And
Oh yeah, exactly.
Or
Easy
worse,
peasy.
make your own Vactrol and then solder it on. And
No,
then it's like,
yeah, no.
Easy peasy CV control right there. I don't know why everyone doesn't do it. It's because Vactrols are
oh, and real quick before I got those Moog knobs that are really expensive, right?
Oh my god, the little ones.
Teeny
Oh,
tiny,
nice.
right? And they look great. They look just like small Moog knobs, but they're one thing to note is their depth is great for like the subharmonicon or Mother 32, where those types of knobs are a little more inset.
Oh,
There's
nice.
other things like some of the I put like some of the extras on my Eurorack stuff, and some of them like are sticking quite a ways out of the panel, and these just like they just don't look great if they're just hanging on the end of the long
Just kind of floating off the
potentiometer.
panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they'd be good on Volca stuff. If you have any Volcas lying around to mess
On any what stuff?
on any of the Volcas, the Korg, the little guys.
Oh, I don't have a Volca. I'm pretty sure the Volcas, if I remember right, because I had a sample for a long time.
Yeah,
I think those were further set, but I can just measure and send you a measurement. Like,
yeah, fair
let's
enough.
do
Fair
that
enough.
if you're curious, because they do look really nice. I put them on like the Bastel, the ABC or something like that. Their mix like 5 HP
Yeah.
mixer, and it just made it look really Cosmoified. I'm debating even putting them on the like drummer from Another Mother and those in favor of like Cosmoifying like the Castor and Pollux and stuff
Oh
like
man. Oh, that would look great on the Castor and Pollux.
that. Yeah, so we'll see. Anyway, I gotta run. I gotta get some food.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to play us out? That's not me. I will happily do
I-
that as well.
Have my synth actually rigged up right here, and so
Yes.
probably can play
Perfect.
us out. Wait, I can even move the camera to be sort of on the synthesizer. If I can get the tripod there. Oh, come on, please. Hey, there's a cardboard box. Hey. Let's just see really quickly. I need to put. Okay, hold on. Can you guys hear that all right?
We're not hearing
Don't hear
any
anything
instrument yet.
No instrument. Hold on, wait. That is weird.
I heard
You
it
should be hearing
earlier when it was hooked up to the delay.
You couldn't hear when it was hooked up to the delay.
No, we
I could hear it.
we could hear it. Yes,
Oh,
we heard it
that's
earlier when you were demoing. Yeah. Yes.
There we go.
sick. All right.
Play Wonderwall. No.
I'm gonna mute up.
Is this the start of a stream train? I think probably. I'm gonna go have some dinner, and then I might be back to do some serious streaming later. So I hope so.